Yvan Muller, the 2010 FIA World Touring Car Champion. To win his second world title fight, he battled many rivals from March to November. Well, the season started with a new car and a new team for world champion Yvan Muller. He's driving for Chevrolet and he strikes gold first time out. First race of the season in Curitiba in Brazil started on a soaked track. Into the first corner, poleman Yvan Muller keeping the lead. Fellow front row starter Jordi Janay in the Seat going straight on and straight off. He did manage to get back on track, as did the other two Chevrolets. Another lap into the race and Janay making another mistake. He rejoins once more, but his chances of winning are long gone. He's not the only man struggling in these conditions. This is independent Andrei Romanov. Chevrolet teammate Rob Huff keeping Yvan Muller honest, darting about as he looks for a way past. But Muller holds him off. 10 laps into the race, local hero Augusto Farfus in the same RBM team now as Andy Priaulx, passing Tom Coronel's Seat, the Dutchman making his debut in a TDI after years racing in the petrol version of the car. Coronel still needing a while to get used to the very different disciplines of the diesel-engined racer. And Jordi Janay, his teammate, meanwhile, has got plenty of experience. He passes his new fellow for 7th place. But it's a fairy tale debut for Yvan Muller in the cruise, grabbing pole and then leading the first race from lights to flag. For Chevrolet, it's better yet. A 1-2-3 with Rob Huff in second, Alain Menu in third. Plenty to celebrate for RML boss Ray Mallock. Chevrolet have never done well in South America before. After the earlier storm passes, the second race a different story. A dry track and bright sunshine. In touring car races, contact is common, and the bump between Tarquini and Priaulx at the start sidelines the 3-time world champion from Guernsey. Tom Coronel started from pole. His race didn't last long either. After 3 corners he was out of the reckoning, as was Priaulx. The end of the weekend after just 10 points in the bank, only 7th in the championship standings after race 1 and 2. At the beginning of the third lap, reigning champion Gabriele Tarquini passing teammate Jordi Janay to grab the lead. Just behind, Rob Huff is passed for 4th by his teammates Alain Menu and Yvan Muller. And it's wheel-to-wheel in the independence category. Sergio Hernandez versus Franz Engstler. Hernandez starts the season well, winning both races ahead of his German rival. He may not have been a Seat factory driver anymore, but Gabriele Tarquini was still competitive in his Sun-Red run machine.
For the
3rd year in a row, I left Brazil as co-leader of the championship with Gabriele, and despite the changes of teams and cars, quite cool. So if we're going to fight for the championship as we had in the last few years, then I'd be very pleased. But I hope that the result will be different, said Yvan. Yeah, we were joint leaders, exactly like the year before. Right after the race, I said to Yvan, I hope the final result will be the same as last year as well. Street circuits are always high risk. Marrakech would be no different. Poleman Gabriele Tarquini led the charge from the front. Into the first corner he was ahead of Rob Huff. So far so good, but by turn 2 things were unravelling. Michelisz went straight on, leaving no room for Jordi Jannet, who ended up in the barriers. Clinging onto the leader, Tarquini, Huff showed how close to the edge they all were as he got a nudge from behind. Reflecting the changes in Formula 1 for 2010, points are awarded to the top 10, but the grid for race 2 still set by the top 8 of race 1 being reversed, so this pass by Prio on menu for 8th would be critical. After a long safety car period caused by a crash from Andrei Romanov, the race would end up finishing under yellow flags. Tarquini claiming his second race win in a row ahead of Huff and Tiago Monteiro. Gabriele's engineer Giancarlo Bruni as delighted as the team. The start of the second race was one of the most chaotic in World Touring Car Championship history as Norbert Michelisz stalled on the grid, then Rob Huff was in the wall, followed by Harry Volkard and finally Sergio Hernandez. Well, they weren't the only ones to be damaged. As the lights change, everybody looking for a gap. Huff from 7th is right in the thick of it, gets turned around into the wall. And there's more chaos behind as others try and avoid the damaged cars. Here's Rob's view of it. Finds the gap, gets turned around, and he's out. Well, massive crash, but fortunately nobody was injured. At the restart, Freddie Bart had just overtaken Augusto Farfus for 5th. Alain Menu tried to go around the outside and make up a place as well. Another major impact. Well, the onboard view from Gabriele Tarquini, who was right behind, shows that it was always going to be a tough call. Not easy to avoid the debris either. He'd already run into Rob Huff at the first start. After another long safety car period to move the machinery, the race restarted with Prio leading, pushed hard by Ivan Muller in the Chevrolet. Prio would come out on top, but Marrakech will be remembered for the massive crash between Augusto Farfus and Alain Menu. Again, fortunately, neither man was injured. Well, right there, Alain turned in front of me, and the first contact there, he gives me a puncture and broken front suspension. I'm trying to stay on the inside, but there's no room for me to avoid the crash. At that stage, I had no steering, and I was just a passenger.
A barra de direção do carro quebrou e eu me tornei passageiro.
Well, Alan sees it differently, of course. He said something broke on his car. It was just because he crashed into me for no reason. He probably then had the mechanical failure or the puncture or whatever. Augusto counters by saying the only reason Alain was alongside was because he cut the chicane using the green part of the track you're not supposed to use. So the overtaking manoeuvre started off wrong in the first place.
Então, na verdade, a manobra de ultrapassagem já começou de uma forma irregular.
Menu, unsurprisingly, sees it differently. He said, we already had a first contact with the chicane. He pushed me off on the outside onto the green. If he'd stayed more to the left, there'd have been no problem. So, yeah, I had my wheels on the curb, maybe a foot over from the tarmac, but because he pushed me, even though I was in front of him.
Alors que je suis devant lui.
Defending champion Gabriele Tarquini arrived in Monza as the crowd favourite, but in motorsport things don't always go as planned. Okay, if you're ready, let's go. In Q2, Tarquini's strategy was coming unwound. There'll be 4 of us in Q2, says Giancarlo. You're second behind Tiago, behind you, Bart and Jordi. We'll just do one group of 4. So Tiago stays in front of me till the parabolica, so say to Tiago to let me pass when I get there, right before the parabolica.
You will go fast, you will lead. And the parabolica you will move, okay? If he arrives before, have a look, you move earlier.
So the Seats come out in their slipstreaming quartet, but despite the best laid plans of mice and men, sometimes things go awry. Into the second Lesmo, Gabrielli's rear tyres are too cold, he flies off the track.
No, but it can happen. I mean, it's racing. Sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work.
Well, you know what they say about a bad dress rehearsal, better than the real thing. At the race, things go much better, at least at the start. Yet again, it's another Tarquini flyer. From 7th on the grid, he's in 2nd as they get to the braking area for the first chicane, behind leader Rob Huff. And he doesn't stop there. A lap later, again at the Primo Variante, he's in the slipstream, down the inside of Huff. The 2009 world champion seems unstoppable as he grabs the lead. Until the very last lap. Sensationally, into the Variante Ascari, the world champion picks up a puncture. Huff sweeps by into the lead. The race is his. Until he too blows a tyre. Incredibly, the first two cars struggling with just 3 wheels as they come past yellow flags. Prio and Farfus streak past to an unexpected BMW 1-2. And Huff and Tarquini are struggling to make the finish. Jubilation for BMW. Disintegration and disappointment for Tarquini. But why did both cars puncture on the final lap? Tyre pressure, camber and hitting the curbs, these are the 3 reasons really. And it's really at the end of the race that the effects come, but the reasons are started at the beginning. You start with lower tyre pressures and then they build as the tyre heats up. But when you hit the curbs early in the race and even on the warm-up lap, there's not enough pressure to really absorb the impact fully, and it can start to damage the inside structure of the tyre, and as the tyre gets stressed further and further through the race, it can eventually fail.
Che può subire dei danni che poi nel tempo, diciamo dopo qualche giro verso la fine della gara, possono determinare il collassamento generale.
And that is exactly what happened, and it wasn't the last. At the start of the second race, an impressively spectacular jump start further back from Mehdi Benani, but into the first chicane, even from a standing start, it's carnage as usual. Tarquini's bumped from behind by Tom Coronel, but the main concern for the Italian would be his jump start. Not as spectacular as Benani's, but there nonetheless. You've got to come through the pit lane. I better stop anyway, says Gabrielli. I've got an oil indicator on. Do another lap, says Giancarlo. And if it's still on, then you can stop. Final lap, and again a puncture for the race leader. This time it's Dane Mikel Nukia who retires just before the Roggia. A maiden win cruelly ripped away. Tarquini knows how that feels. Ivan Muller, the unexpected winner. Tom Coronel and Augusto Farfus join him on the podium as his sister Kathy celebrates. Andy Prio's BMW may not have been the fastest car on the grid, but race 2 provided the perfect opportunity for him to score some big points. Round 7 in Zolder, and a tight start with Jordi Genet starting second, almost getting around pole sitter Gabriele Tarquini into the first corners. On board view courtesy of Alain Menu in the Chevrolet as Ivan Muller sniffs around the heels. Well, already on lap 1, Mikel Nukia and Darilo Young would struggle after contact between the pair. They're both speared off sideways. Young continues, but he's a lap down. Meanwhile, 7 laps in, Tom Coronel passed by Andy Priaulx, the only spot on the tight track where you can realistically make an overtaking. This is crucial because 8th place means race 2 pole. Victory meanwhile for Jordi Genet, although later his air restrictor was found to be illegal and he would be disqualified, the win being handed to Gabriele Tarquini. Norbert Michelisz starting from the front row, again in trouble at the getaway. Priaulx jumping away from Rob Huff and Thiago Monteiro. Well, on the tight confines of the Zolder circuit, it's hard to imagine they once raced Formula 1 cars here when you see how much room 2 touring cars need. Monteiro didn't make the move then on menu. Harry Volkard's race coming to an unusual end on lap 3, as he suddenly finds he's got 3 wheels and very little braking. A heavy impact with the curbs, a puncture and then a spin. That's how Mikkel Nukke's Belgian foray ends. Under the attentive eyes of Alain Menou's engineer John Waterman, the leaders cross the finish line for the penultimate time. And Andy Priaulx takes win number 3 of the season, moving 1 spot up in the championship standings to 3rd place. The race 2 wins have always been vital for Priaulx, and never more so than in 2010.
We are at the end of the development. We have tried everything with Formula 1 quality mechanics and engineers. So we are limited by the fact that we're 5 years down the road. We are the challengers. We aren't setting the pace, but we are very ambitious. We think our success will come from race 2, and we have to drive with that in mind.
It started in the worst possible way, but Thiago Monteiro's home weekend ended up a lot better than he might have expected. Crashes in touring car racing are quite common, but not often in qualifying, even less in a straightforward warm-up lap. But that was the dramatic start to Thiago Monteiro's weekend, as his worried dad Edmar watched on.
Uma pancada mesmo muito violenta, não só me fez dar 380.
It was a pretty violent crash actually. I did a complete 360 spin on the track, but also it really knocked the wind out of me. I had no idea what had happened. I thought that my qualifying was over and obviously I'd start at the back of the grid. But then 2 miracles. First of all, I managed to get the car back to the pits, and then the team did an unbelievable job. They repaired the car in 10 minutes and I managed to calm down and get back out on track, and then set pole position.
Em 10 minutos, nem isso, talvez 10 minutos. Foi mesmo impressionante, fizeram trabalho incrível. Consegui acalmar, esquecer, voltar para a pista e ainda conseguimos fazer a pole position.
And that gave Thiago's fans plenty to celebrate, starting with his number 1 fan, his dad Edmar, who follows his son to every race of the season. So Monteiro on pole, and courtesy of special cameraman for the day, Ivan Muller. Let's take a look. The Algarve circuit of Portimao is relatively wide. It's a real roller coaster as well, and it's fantastic for touring car racing. Here Ivan Muller takes 2nd, while Rob Huff and Gabriele Tarquini battle for 3rd place, with the old lion eventually getting the upper hand. Meanwhile, Monteiro is trying to make good his escape. Well, it's not such a good start for Andy Priaulx. He was involved in that contact with Monteiro early on, but he gets hunted by Freddie Bart on the downhill final corner, and that puts him out. Lots of points going astray for the track that was supposed to be a good one for BMW. Well, Monteiro would hold on, but not for lack of Muller trying. Thiago comes from Porto. He's never enjoyed the best of successes there, but this Portuguese weekend was going to hand him a reward. Former teammate Ivan Muller, of course, now at Chevrolet, pushing at every opportunity. And Tarquini trying to take advantage of every single error. The cars are on the limit and almost every inch of the track, and there's no way through for Tarquini. Now his problems are with Farfus. Further back in the Independence Trophy, Sergio Hernandez leads by inches from Darrell O'Young and the BMW of Kristen Poulsen. And that's how they'll finish 1, 2 and 3. And up front, it's a first win of the season for Thiago Monteiro, with Muller and Tarquini completing the championship podium just ahead of Augusto Farfus. Michelisz in round 10 doesn't fluff the start. He leads then from Menu and Tarquini, but only for 3 laps. First, the Chevy Cruze of Alain Menu streams by. Tarquini is right behind, tucks out of the toe, grabs the racing line. Menu holds on for a moment, drifts wide. Tarquini's got his foot in the door and Alain can't close it. The Italian is through as behind Ivan Muller also makes a pass. As Muller goes by Tarquini, the Chevrolets are moving to the front. But Tarquini has the lead. Muller now down the inside of Michelisz, and it's Coronel and Monteiro squabbling with Augusto Farfus. In temperatures where the Seats believed their brakes wouldn't last more than 2 or 3 laps, it seems they're still having no dramas with the tyres, and even the BMWs can't hang on to the pace of the front-wheel drive cars. Rob Huff, who started from the back in the number 7 Chevrolet, pressuring Farfus all the way. The Brazilian has a huge slide under braking as he gets touched from behind, and Huff will later be excluded for that contact. Meanwhile, the Chevrolets battle wheel to wheel. Muller on the inside, Menu looking for a way by. And Huff, behind Coronel and Monteiro, takes advantage of one and then the other. Prio sticks his nose in there as well. It's all arms and elbows. Eventually it comes to an end. 4th win of the season for Tarquini, with the Chevrolets 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Gabrielli's already won 1 more race than in 2009 when he was champion. But championship leader Ivan Muller is still way in front. Well, Ivan Muller built his career on the icy and slippery roads of the Andros Trophy, and in Brands Hatch he proved he is still the king of sideways. Well, it's not often you see a car getting so far into the gravel traps at Paddock Hill Bend and continuing, but if anyone can hold a slide, it's Ivan Muller. And moments later, he'd complete a remarkable series of laps by grabbing pole. At the start in Brands Hatch, race 1, everything under control. The Chevrolets boxing out the BMW and Seat rivals. Muller leading from Huff and Menu. Right behind them, Colin Turkington making another appearance in the championship. As further back, Andy Prio coming up the order from 15th on the grid, already into 11th a few corners in. Turkington passing Tarquini for 4th place. Turks had started his season in Portimao. Well, now he was the best of the rest, giving chase to the Chevrolets out front. 8th in the championship at this stage. Augusto Farfus trying hard to move up the order. Pushes Norbert Michelisz off at Surtees. And Andy Priaulx now ready to take advantage. Brazilian stock car champion Carlos Bueno's World Touring Car Championship debut came to an early end. Priaulx finding his way past Thiago Monteiro, who tries to shove him back out of the way. Plenty of door-to-door racing at Brands Hatch. And once more, Priaulx is critically up into 8th position on the penultimate lap of the race. But the squabbling is far from over. Alemaniu decides he'll drop a little down the order to try and boost his chances of winning race 2, but the stewards punish him for unsporting behaviour with a 30-second penalty. Meanwhile, it's a 1-2 for Chevrolet. Ivan Muller leading from Rob Huff and increasing his championship advantage.
Oh boy, bloody brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Well done. Rob, excellent drive. Alan finished P7.
That worked out quite nicely. Yeah. A bit more. Yeah. Perfect.
Well, the start of race 2 enlivened, unfortunately, for Christian Poulsen, the Dane in his BMW, right in the middle of the pack, finds a gap. Then Freddie Bart, he started 16th, and after contact, he's in the barriers. Meanwhile, Augusto Farfus had a better start than teammate Andy Priaulx to take the early lead. Contact into Sterling's Bend between Thiago Monteiro and teammate Norbert Michelisz puts Jordi Genet off. Fortunately, he avoids the metal barriers. A few metres later, Monteiro has another clash, this time with Tom Boardman making a return to the series. And Franz Englsih ducking out wide. Sergio Hernandez ends up in the gravel trap and rallycrosses his way back on. 3 laps in, Priaulx dives up the inside of Farfus to take the lead, and Farfus gets turned around as he tries to close the door on Alemaniu. The Brazilian and the Swiss both at the back. Lap 8, Ivan Muller keeping speed up, getting a run on Rob Huff for 5th position as they drop into Pilgrim's Drop and up to Hawthorne Bend. From Rob Huff's viewpoint, we can see just how on the limit these cars are throughout the race. And again, Ivan holds it. Keep your foot in, son. Keep your foot in. Checkered flag, and the 3rd win of the season for Andy Priaulx again in race 2. The triple world champion getting the best out of the BMW. Plenty of time to celebrate for family and friends. Priaulx 3rd in the standings, but Muller still in charge. Joy for Andy Priaulx in Brno. Drama for rivals Tarquini and Muller. The battle for the championship opens up once more. As Rob Huff starts the race on pole position, teammate Ivan Muller is in 7th place. Let's ride with him. Plenty of bumping and boring, but incredibly everybody survives. Rob Huff leads, Tarquini in 2nd, Colin Turkington's BMW battling with Swiss Chevrolet driver Alemaniu for 3rd. Big carnage in the middle of the pack though in turn 4. Genet, Christensen, Freddie Bart and Tom Coronel all involved. Thiago Monteiro on the grass. Priaulx continues without a bumper and a front corner. Let's see what happens on lap 4. Championship leader Ivan Muller involved in a crash between Turkington and Michelisz. Brno's supposed to be a good circuit for BMW. Qualifying hadn't been good for Andy Priaulx though. Once again, the Briton had to put all his hopes on race 2. Here, passing Thiago Monteiro for 7th place. Every point counts. After 4 second places, finally a win for Rob Huff. Behind him, Tarquini, who slashes the gap to championship leader Muller, who was out on the sidelines. For Chevrolet, the races prove once again that their car was the fastest in the championship. On board with Augusto Farfus, the start of race 2, he's 5th on the grid. Nokia didn't make a good getaway from pole position. So after the first corner, it's Turkington who leads, Prio in 2nd, Nokia in 3rd. Once again, Prio's strategy focusing on winning race 2 seemed to be working. Taking the lead from Turkington without too much of a defence on lap 2. The championship leader way down in the pack, Prio's family looking happy. Tarquini also knows a unique opportunity when he sees one, sweeps past Turkington. Onto the dirt, drifts out wide, but manages to cling on. Turks is back in front, so too is Menu, and Tarquini's got pressure from behind. And with a lap remaining, he's out. Huge drama and disappointment. Farfus battling with Huff for 4th place. The BMW has the inside line, but the grip on the racing line is with the Chevrolet. As Augusto drifts out wide, Rob comes back on the inside. Last lap for Prio.
50th race for BMW, guys. Not there yet. Just cross the finish first, please. All the guys, thank you very much. Well done, boys. Yes, yes, yes. Great. Well done, mate. Well done. Sammy, once again, fantastic race car. Well done. This is to the team. Well done, boys. You deserve it. You've won the 50th race for BMW. Well done.
And the championship is looking incredibly close. 5 points, 1st to 2nd, 16 1st to 3rd. Race 1 in Oschersleben, always dramatic, and this year more than ever. A slew of penalties that left questions raised. Let's take a look at what happened then. It's a very, very tight first corner. Augusto Farfus and Rob Huff starting on the front row of the grid. Huff tucking in behind the BMW, and then contact. Farfus skates into the braking area, drifts a little wide, onto the curbs, stays on track. Huff has the lead. Further back, there's trouble. Prio has a collision. Now Huff has the lead of the race. Meanwhile, Michael Nokia and Ivan Muller battle. Nokia dives in, drifts out wide, and Muller showing the superb traction of the Chevrolet Cruze, clings to the inside line and fights right back. Well, battles everywhere. Meanwhile, carnage at turn 1, costing Gabriele Tarquini a chance of finishing the race. Augusto Farfus shows just where the car ended up, right on the racing line, on the curbs on the exit of one of the most important corners on the circuit. And then more drama, this time not from the race cars, but from the stewards' room. Drive-through penalty for Rob Huff, and he was handed a penalty for causing the collision with Farfus in the first lap. Meanwhile, Tom Coronel finding places slipping away from him. Ivan Muller goes by as Huff comes in to serve his controversial penalty, and that hands the win to teammate Alain Menu. The Swiss driver takes his first win of the season. After the race, Farfus and Menu had a chat about it. Farfus and Huff.
He braked earlier than I would have braked, but then I have a front-wheel drive car, my front tyres are hotter. It's easier for me to brake later, earlier in the race, because Augusto is a rear-wheel drive car, the fronts I presume take longer to heat up.
You could see the point where I braked and he braked, he pushed me and I didn't manage to get to the corner. If I would have any margin left, I would have managed to make the corner. As I went straight, means there was no margin left.
but I think your margin gets taken away, not necessarily from the first hit from me, but by the second, third and fourth hit from where I'm being pushed. So yes, I hit Augusto first. You'll see it coming now, but then we both back under control, but now I hit him again because I'm being pushed. The fact that 15 people then after the race get disqualified for jumping the start, what do you expect to happen? If 15 people jump the start, what does that say? It means that those 15 people are arriving at the first corner quicker than us.
I know Rob, he's not the guy who pushed you on purpose. So immediately I was of course disappointed because I could keep the lead and I lost. But I was not like blaming on the radio, shouting on the radio, oh, well.
Well, amazingly, two drivers seeing the incident exactly the same way. Not the same as the stewards though. Meanwhile, on to race 2. Andy Priaulx jumping into the lead at the start. Again, Norbert Michelisz in the blue Seat right at the front of race 2. This time into the first corner in second place, and with a slightly slower approach speed, there's a little bit less confusion. 4 laps into the race, turn 3, Thiago Monteiro and Mikel Nukia make contact. And for that, Monteiro is given a drive-through. He picks up third place, but he'll soon lose it. Nukia passed by Augusto Farfus and Ivan Muller exiting the final corner. With Thiago Monteiro handed that drive-through, Farfus and Muller now effectively in second and third. But in the end, it's a 1-2 for BMW, with Priaulx and Farfus taking the top 2 spots, and their wives congratulate each other. Priaulx now up to second in the championship. It's a Spanish stroll for Seat as they claim both races on home tarmac. Well, with a long front straight, the getaway in race 1 of Valencia is usually pretty straightforward. Gabriele Tarquini, the race leader from Rob Huff, Ivan Muller and Alain Menu in their Chevrolets. Further back, 5 laps in, Marc Carol on a one-off race appearance battling with Sergio Hernandez. And his teammate Stefano D'Aste can't miss him as he gets tagged.
Okay, mate, understood. Push, push.
No team orders, or are there? Ivan Muller takes second place from teammate Rob Huff. 7 laps into the race, Andy Priaulx clawing his way up into position 6 as he makes this pass on Thiago Monteiro. And he's not done. Next target is Alain Menu in 5th. Well, after scoring just 2 points in the last 3 races, Gabriele Tarquini gets a maximum, his 5th race win of the season. But Ivan Muller right behind means the championship gap comes down by just 7 points for Gabriele. Menu unable to take advantage of the race 2 pole. Freddie Bart leads the pack into the first couple of corners. Turn 4, Andy Priaulx with Alain Menu right in front. There's contact. Menu sideways. Ivan Muller goes through past both of them. Meanwhile, Thiago Monteiro takes the lead from Freddie Bart. The long snarling pack continues to dice. Gabriele Tarquini using the Seat speed on the straight to go by Priaulx for 4th. And Jordi Genet rubs salt into the wounds by jumping the Guernseyman at the very next turn. With his 2 main championship rivals behind him, Ivan Muller can consolidate his championship lead. And Freddie Bart suffering with tyre trouble into turn 2. Major slide leaves the door wide open for the Frenchman. He jumps up to second. Tarquini's in fourth as Bart recovers his composure. Andy Priaulx, little bump with Jordi Genet. He grabs fourth position. Battling with Gabriele Tarquini for third place. They're second and third in the championship. The BMW stronger under braking. Bumps the back of Gabriele Seat several times. But out of the corners, the TDI engine helps the Italian pull away. And it means that it's an all-risks option for Priaulx to try and make a pass. Muller's safely away from this as Tarquini and Priaulx sweat the small stuff. And even with its great chassis, the Chevrolet has no real chance of catching the Seat of Thiago Monteiro. He claims win number 2 of the season. Muller in second, Tarquini third, Priaulx in fourth. With 40 points, Tarquini is the top scorer of the weekend. Andy Priaulx closer in second place. But still, Ivar Muller leading the championship. Two races remain, and in Okayama in Japan, it all came down to one man. Well, the weekend in Japan got off to an unqualified successful start for BMW. They were allowed to use a 6-speed sequential gearbox and run 30 kilos lighter than their 4-speed, their front-wheel drive rivals. As a result, the BMWs were flying in qualifying, fastest of all. But all of their opportunities were undone by the rain as they went into race 1. After starting behind the safety car, Priaulx took the lead with Augusto Farfus giving chase. On the first lap under green, Rob Huff passing Augusto for second into the uphill hairpin at turn 6. Not without incident. But there was worse to come. A massive crash at the exit of turn 9 would involve Tom Coronel, Freddie Bart, Christian Poulsen and Stefano D'Aste. Lots of damaged machinery. Fortunately, everybody else walked away. Streaming and very difficult conditions from Ivar Muller's onboard, right behind Norbert Michelisz in 6. You have an idea of just how difficult it was. Staying on was a work of genius in itself. But it's not only Ivar Muller who's got this opposite looking a Chevrolet thing down pat. Here's Rob Huff trying to pass Andy Priaulx for the lead. Well held. Well, as they battled, they were being caught from behind by Farfus and Tarquini. And as Huff tries a run on Priaulx, further back, Tarquini trying a run on Farfus. Skates up the inside, doesn't quite make it. With mud, dirt, rivers of water and debris strewn all over the track, it was treacherous stuff. The BMWs were struggling for grip as the front-wheel drive cars had their way. Tarquini around the outside, but too wide, drifting out and into the barriers. He managed to keep it going though, and rejoined with no major damage. The good news for Ivar Muller is that he's used to these sort of slippery conditions. Here, he skates past Turkington for 4th. Pressure on Muller to perform, but not to make any critical errors. Here, trying to pass Augusto Farfus. Frenchman goes inside-outside in the first-second turn complex. More successfully than Gabriele Tarquini managed. For Rob Huff, it's win number 2 of the season. Priaulx in second and Muller in third. Eric Neff can sense it's all getting closer. Chevrolet on the brink of something massive. Rob Huff celebrates his win. And Ivan Muller is on the brink. Horrible weather conditions for race 2 as well. And again, Ivan Muller using all his car control skills. Well, he did save it, although momentarily he was held off by Andy Priaulx. It didn't take long for the Chevrolet to reassert itself. And he wasn't the only one going through too. Well, for Priaulx, the championship was slipping away. What he couldn't afford was exactly what happened next. Downhill, under braking, car looped away from him. A big fat 0 in the score column meant the championship was over. As Priaulx's championship hopes went west, the start perhaps of something big coming for a new car. Volvo reappearing. They've made a couple of one-offs in the championship. Robert Dahlgren grabbing 6th position at the end of an exciting and eventful weekend. And Volvo coming to the Touring Car Championship for 2011. Michael Nukia hoping to get the win that had eluded him at Monza, unfortunately skated off the road. His chances of a maiden victory were over. 2 laps later, another major blow. Gabriele Tarquini off in the barriers. The only rival for the championship to Ivan Muller had gone west. Well, Augusto Farfus would claim the checkered flag, but the FIA would later rule that the gearbox was ineligible, and Priaulx and Farfus would lose all the points they'd scored. Ivan Muller was effectively the world champion. Time for the final championship decisions. We had a drivers' champion, manufacturers, independents, rookies and teams in the independents category, all up for grabs in Macau. Chevrolets have always fared well on street circuits, and here in Macau, Rob Huff's got an enviable reputation. He started race 1 from pole. They hadn't even got out of the first turn before it all went wrong for Andy Priaulx. Andre Coto and Michael Nukia also being involved. A terrible weekend for Coto. The Macau driver had lost his son Afonso to leukemia earlier in the month. The race restarting at the tight Lisboa corner. Alemaniu in the barriers as Priaulx's heavily damaged car returns to the RBM pit. Hong Kong driver Daryl O'Young was looking to win the independents category, but hit from behind by Tom Coronel under braking. He was into the barriers, taking Freddie Bart with him. Coronel lost control, and any hopes for the Bamboo Engineering driver were now over. Ivan Muller already clear in the championship points, but the battle for runner-up was alive. And that's when Gabriele Tarquini concentrated on passing Farfus for 4th position. Rob Huff won the race and sealed the manufacturer's title for Chevrolet to go with Ivan's driver's crown. Ray Malek, Eric Nev, and the new world champion in his first year at Chevrolet, Ivan Muller. Poleman for race 2, Alain Menu, doing what so many race 2 polemen have done, stalling at the start. Amazingly, everybody avoided him on the tight confines of the streets. Christian Poulsen had the early lead, but he was immediately passed by the turbo diesels of Norbert Michelisz and Gabriele Tarquini. Well, the race got underway relatively cleanly, but half the field didn't get through this big impact, and the race was temporarily stopped. After the restart, Ivan Muller allowing teammate Rob Huff back up past him as he battled for runner-up spot in the championship. To take 2nd place though, Rob needed to finish 2nd and in front of Tarquini. First, though, he had to get by Augusto Farfus. Michelisz led from Tarquini. Huff was making progress, but would he get there fast enough? The BMW dangling bits of bumper as Ivan Muller makes his way past as well. So the final battle of the year, Tarquini staying in second place would give him the runner-up spot in the championship on a tie-break. If Rob Huff were to pass him, then Huff would make it a 1-2 in the drivers' lineup for Chevrolet. Gabrielli down on power with a sick engine, but he knows how to defend. And with just 2 corners left, he hung on to second behind first race winner Norbert Michelisz. The Hungarian thrilled his first year in the World Touring Car Championship. Well done, you're second because you've won more races. Congratulations, says Giancarlo. So Tarquini, the championship runner-up behind Muller, Huff ending up in third place.
World champion, guys. World champion we are. Thank you very much. You are the king of 2010.
Moi, la course automobile, c'est pas ma passion, ou je dirais, ce n'est plus ma passion.
Well, motor racing's not my passion anymore, says Ivan, or rather, it's not a passion in the way that it used to be. 10 years ago, I changed my approach, and car racing became my job, my career. And getting rid of the passion element took out some of the mistakes that being too passionate can cause. And since then, I've never looked back, really. I don't say everybody has to look at it this way, but that's the way that it works for me. So, season 6 of the World Touring Car Championship, and we have a French champion once more. Ivan Muller and Chevrolet, the champions. Pro Team and Sergio Hernandez winning in the independence category, and we'll be back in 2011.